Tuesday, November 10th, 1942. Dearest Kitty, great news. We're planning to take an eighth person into hiding with us. Yes, really. We always thought there was enough room and food for one more person, but we were afraid of placing an even greater burden on Mr. Kugler and Mr. Kleiman. But since reporters of the dreadful things being done to the Jews are getting worse day by day, father decided to sound out these two gentlemen, and they thought it was an excellent plan. It's just as dangerous whether there are seven or eight. They noted rightly. Once this was settled, we sat down and mentally went through our circle of acquaintances, trying to come up with a single person who could blend in well and with our extended family. This wasn't difficult. After Father had rejected all the Van relatives, we chose a dentist named Alfred Dissel. He lives with a charming Christian lady who's quite a bit younger than he is. They're probably not married, but that's beside the point. He's known to be quiet and refined, and he seemed from our superficial acquaintance with him to be nice. Mia knows him as well, or so she'll be able to make necessary arrangement if he comes. Mr. Dussel will have to sleep in my room instead of Margaret, who will have to make do what the folding bed. We'll ask him to bring along sometimes something to fill cavities with. Thursday, November 12th, 1942. Dearest Kitty, Miep came to tell us that she'd been to see Dr. Dussel. He asked her the moment she entered the room if she knew of a hiding place and was enormously pleased with Miep when Miep said she had something in mind. She added that he'd need to go into hiding as soon as possible, preferably Saturday. But he thought this was highly improbable, since he wanted to bring his record up to date, settle his accounts, and attend to a couple of patients. Miep relayed the message to us this morning. We didn't think it was wise to wait so long. All these preparations require explanation to various people who we feel ought to be kept in the dark. Mia went to ask if Dr. Giselle couldn't manage to come on Saturday after all, but he said no, and now he's scheduled to arrive on Monday. I think it's odd that he doesn't jump at our proposal. If they pick him up on the street, it won't help either his records of his patients. So why the delay? If you ask me, it's stupid of father to humor him. Otherwise, no news. Tuesday, November 17th, 1942. Dearest Kitty, Mr. Dussel has arrived. Everything went smoothly. Miep told him that Miep told him to be at a certain place in front of the post office at 11 a.m. when the man would meet him, and he was at the appointment place at the appointed time. Mr. Kleiman went up to him, announced that the man he was expecting to meet was unable to come, and asked him to drop by the office to see Miep. Mr. Kleiman took a tram back to the office while Mr. Dussel followed on foot. It was 11:30 when Mr. Dussel tapped on the office door. Miep asked him to remove his coat so the yellow star couldn't be seen, and brought him to the private office where Mr. Kleiman kept him occupied until the cleaning lady had gone. On the pretext what the private office was needed, on the pretext that the private office was needed for something else, Miep took Mr. Dussel upstairs, opened the bookcase, and stepped inside. While Mr. Dussel looked on in amazement. In the meantime, the seven of us had seated ourselves around the dining table to await the latest addition to our family with the coffee and cognac. Mia first led him into the Frank family's room. He immediately recognized our furniture but had no idea we were upstairs just above his head. When Mia told him, he was so astonished he nearly fainted. Thank goodness she didn't leave him in suspense any longer, but brought him upstairs. Mr. Dussel sank into a chair and stared at us in dumbstruck silence as though he thought he could read the truth of our faces. Then he stuttered, uh, but are you niched in Belgium? The officer, the author, they were not coming. You escaped Your escape was not working. We explained the whole thing to him about how we deliberately spread the rumor of the officer and the car to throw the Germans and anyone else who might come looking for us off the track. Mr. Juice was speechless in the face of such ingenuity and could do nothing but gaze around in surprise as he explored the rest of our lovely and ultra practical annex. We all had lunch together. Then we had a short nap, joined us for tea, put away the few belongings Miep had been able to bring here in advance, and began to feel much more at home, especially when we handed him the following typewriter written rules and regulations for the secret annex of Van Dan production. Prospects and guide to the secret annex, a unique facility for the temporary accommodation of Jews and other dispossessed person. Open all year, open all year round. Located in beautiful, quiet, wooded surrounding in the heart of Amsterdam, no private residences in the vicinity can be reached by tram 13 or 17 and also by car and bicycle. For those to whom such transportation have been forbidden by the German authorities, it can be also reached on foot. Furnished and unfurnished rooms and apartments are available at all times with or without meals. Price free. Diet low fat. Running water in bathroom. Sorry, no bath. And no on various inside and outside walls. Cozy. Stoves for heating. Ample storage space for a variety of goods. Two large modern safes. Private radio with a direct line to London, New York. Tel Aviv, and many other stations available to all residents after 6 p.m. No listening to forbidden broadcast with certain expectation that its German station may only be tuned in to listen to classical music. It is absolutely forbidden to listen to German news bulletins, regardless of where they are transmitted from, and to pass them on to others. Rest hours from 10 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. 10:15 a.m. on Sundays. Owing to circumstances, residents are required to observe rest hours during the daytime when instructed to do so by the management to ensure the safety of all. Rest hours must be strictly observed. Free time activities none allowed outside the house until further notice. Use of language it is necessary to speak softly at all times. Only the language of civilized people may be spoken. Thus, no German. Reading and relaxation. No German books may be read except for the classic and work of a scholarly nature. Other books are optional. Calisthenics daily. Singing only softly and after 6 p.m. Films prior arrangement required. Lessons a weekly correspondence course in shorthand. Courses in English, French, math, and history offered at any hour of the day of night or night. Payment in the form of tuition, example Dutch. Separate department for the care of small household pets with the exceptions of vermin, for which special permits are required. Meal times: breakfast at 9 a.m. daily except public holidays and Sundays at approximately 11:30 a.m. on Sundays and public holidays. Lunch, a light meal for from 11:15 to 11:45. Dinner may not be a hot meal. Meal time depends on news broadcast. Obligation with respect to the supply corps. Residents must be prepared to help with office work at all times. Baths. The washtub is available to all residents after 9 a.m. On Sundays, residents may was in the downstairs lavatory Kitchen, private office, or friend's office, as they chose. Alcohol for medical what? Alcohol for medical purpose only. The end. Your Anne. Thursday, November 1940. Thursday, November 19, 1942. Dearest Kitty, just as we thought, Mr. Dussel is a very nice man. Of course, he didn't mind sharing a room with me, to be honest. I'm not exactly delighted at having a stranger use my thing. But you have to make sacrifices for a good cause, and I'm glad I can make this small one. If we can save even one of our friends, the rest doesn't matter, said father, and he's absolutely right. The first day Mr. Dussel was here, he asked me all sort of questions. For example, what time the cleaning lady comes to the office, how we've arranged to use the bathroom, and when we're allowed to go to the lavatory. You may laugh, but these things aren't so easy in a hiding place. During the daytime, we can't make any noise that might be heard downstairs, and when someone else is there, like the cleaning lady, we have to be extra careful. I patiently explained all this to Mr. Dussel, but I was surprised to see how slow he is to catch on. He asks everything twice and still can't remember what you've told him. Maybe he's just confused by the sudden change and he'll get over it. Otherwise, everything is going fine. Mr. Dussel has told us about the outside world we've missed for so long. He had sad news. Countless friends and acquaintances have been taken off to a dreadful fate. Night after night, green and grey military vehicles cruise the streets. They knock on every door asking whether any Jew lives there. If so, the whole family is immediately taken away. If not, they proceed to the next house. It's impossible to escape their clutches unless you go into hiding. They often go around with lists, knocking only to on those doors where they know there's a big haul to be made. They frequently offer a bounty. So put more so much per head. It's like the slave hunts of the olden days. I don't mean to make light of this. It's much too tragic for that. In the evening when it's dark, I often see long lines of good innocent people accompanied by crying children walking on and on, ordered about by a handful of men who bully and beat them until they nearly drop. No one is spared. The sick, the elderly, children, babies, and pregnant women all are marched to their death. We're so fortunate here, away from the turmoil. We wouldn't have to give a moment thought to all this suffering if it weren't for the fact that we are so worried about those who hold dear we hold dear, whom we can no longer help. I feel wicked sleeping in a warm bed while somewhere out there my dearest friends are dropping from exhaustion or being knocked to the ground. I get frightened myself when I think of close friends who are now at the mercy of the cruelest monsters even to stop the earth. And all because they're Jews. All because they're Jews. Friday, November 20, 1942. Dearest Kitty, we don't really know how to react. Up till now, very little news about the Jews had reached us here, and we thought it best to stay as cheerful as possible. Every now and then, Mr. Dan Biev used to mention that what had happened to a friend and mother to Mrs. Wagner, who started to cry, so she decided it was better not to say any more. But we bombarded Mr. Dussel with questions, and the stories he had to tell were so gruesome and dreadful that we can't get them out of our head. Once we've had time to digest the news, we'll probably go back to our usual joking and teasing. It won't do us or those outside any good if we continue to be as gloomy as we are now. And what would be the point of turning the secret annex into a melancholy annex? No matter what I'm doing, No matter what I'm doing, I can't help thinking about those who are gone. I catch myself laughing and remembering that it's a disgrace to be so cheerful, but am I supposed to spend the whole day crying? No, I can't do that. The gloom will pass. Added to this misery, there's another, but of a more personal nature, and it pales in comparison to the suffering I've just told you about. Still, I can't help telling you that lately I've begun to feel deserted. I'm surrounded by too great a void. I never used to give it much thought, since my mind was filled with my friends and having a good time. Now I think either about unhappy things or about myself. It's taken a while, but I finally realized that Father, no matter how kind he may be, can't take the place of my former world. When it comes to my feelings, Mother and Margaret ceased to count long ago. But why do I bother you with this foolishness? I'm terribly ungrateful, Kitty. I know, but when I've been scolded for the umpteenth time and have all these other words to think about as well, my head begins to reel. Your son, Saturday, November 28, 1942, dearest Kitty. We've been using too much electricity and have not exceeded our ration. The result, excessive economy and the prospect of having the electricity cut off. No light for a fortnight. That's a pleasant thought, isn't it? But who knows? Maybe it won't be so long. It's too dark to read after 4 or 5:30. So we while away the time with all kinds of crazy activities, telling riddles, doing calisthenics in the dark, speaking English or French, rewriting books, reviewing books. After a while, everything gets boring. Yesterday, I discovered a new pastime using a good pair of binoculars to peek into the lighted rooms of the neighbors. During the day, our curtains can be open not even an inch, but there's no harm when it's so dark. I never, I never knew I never knew that neighbors could be so interesting. Ours are, at any rate. I've come across a few at dinner, one family making a sign film and the dentist opposite, working on a frightened old lady. Mr. Dussel, the man who was said to get along so well with the children and to absolutely adore them, has turned out to be an old-fashioned disciplinarian and creature of unbearably long sermons on manners. Since I have the singular pleasure exclamation mark of sharing my far too narrow room with His Excellency, and since I'm generally considered to be the worst behaved on the three young people, it's all I can do to avoid having the same old scolding and admonition repeatedly flung at my head, and to pretend not to hear. This wouldn't be so bad if Mr. Dussel weren't such a telltale and hadn't signed out Mother to be the recipient of his reports. If Mr. Dussel's just read me the riot act, Mother lectures me all over again. This time, throwing the whole book at me, and if I'm really lucky, Mrs. Vandy calls me to account 5 minutes later and lays down the law as well. Really, it's not easy being the badly brought up center of attention of a family of nitpickers. In the bed at night, as I ponder my many sins and exaggerated shortcomings, I get so confused by the sheer amount of things I have to consider that I either laugh or cry, depending on my mood. Then I fall asleep with the strange feeling of wanting to be different than I am, or being different when I want to be, or perhaps of behaving differently than I am or want to be. Oh dear. Now I'm confusing you too, forgive me, but I don't like crossing things out. And in these times of scarcity, tossing away a piece of paper is clearly taboo. So I can only advise you not to reread the above phrase and to make no attempt to get to the bottom of it, because you'll never find your way out again. Yours, Kitty. Yours, Anne, sorry. Monday, December 7, 1942, dearest Kitty. Hanukkah and Saint Nicholas's Day nearly coincided this year. They were only one day apart. We didn't make much of a fuss with Hanukkah, merely exchanging a few small gifts and lighting the candles. Since candles are in short supply, we lit them for only 10 minutes, but as long as we sing the song, that doesn't matter. Mr. Vanton made a menorah out of wood so that we can take care of too. St. Nicholas's Day on Saturday was much more fun. During dinner, Beb and Mia were so busy whispering to father that our curiosity was aroused and we suspected they were up to something. Sure enough, at 8 o'clock, we all trooped downstairs through the passage in pitch darkness. It gave me the shivers, and I wished I was safely back upstairs to the alcove. We could switch on the light since this room doesn't have any windows. When that was done, father opened the big cabinet. Oh wow, wonderful! We all cried. In the corner was a large basket decorated with colorful people and a mask of Black Peter. We quickly took the basket upstairs with us. Inside was a little gift for everyone, including an appropriate verse. Since you're familiar with the kind of poems people write with each other on St. Nicholas's Day, I won't copy them down for you. I receive a doll. Father got bookends and so on. Well, anyway, it was a nice day. It was a nice idea, and since the eight of us had never celebrated St. Nicholas's Day before, this was a good time to begin. Yes, we all had presents for everyone downstairs. A few things left over from the good old days, plus me and Beb are always grateful for money. Today we heard that Mr. Van Dan's ashtray, Mr. Doozle's picture frame, and Father's bookends were made by none other than Mr. Wash Cujo. How many anyone how anyone can. He's look over with his hands in a mystery to me. Is a mystery to me. Thursday, December 10, 1942, the skater Mr. Van Dam used to be in the meat, sausage, and spices business. He was hired for his knowledge of spices, and yet to be our greatest delight, it's his sausage talents that have come in handy now. We ordered a large amount of meat under the counter, of course, that we were planning to preserve in case there were hard times ahead. Mr. Van Dam decided to make bratwurst sausages and metwurst. Metwurst. What the heck is that? Sorry, bro. That's wrong. Mr. Van Dam decided to make bratwurst sausages and metwurst. I had fun watching him put the meat through the nice miser. Once, twice, three times. Once, twice, three times. Then he added the remaining ingredient to the minced meat and used a long pipe to force the mixture into the casing. We ate the bratwurst with sauerkraut for lunch, but the sausage, which were going to be preserved, had to dry first, so we hung them over a pole suspended from the ceiling. Everyone who came into the room burst into laughter when they saw the dangling sausages. It was such a comical sight. The kitchen was a shambles. Mr. Van Dam, clad in his wife's apron and looking fatter than ever, was working away at the meat. What with his bloody hand, red face, and spotted apron, he had looked like a real butcher. Mrs. Vandy was trying to do everything at once, learning Dutch out of a book, stirring the soup, watching the meat, sighing and moaning about her broken rib. "That's what happened when olds!" exclaimed Matthew remarked. "Ladies do such stupid exercises to get rid of their fat behinds." Dussel had an eye infection and was sitting next to the stove dabbling his eye with chamomile tea. Fame, seated in the one-off ray of sunshine coming through the window, kept having to move their chair this way and that to stay out of the way His rheumatism must have been bothering him because he was slightly hunched over and was keeping an eye on Mr. Van Daan with an agonised expression on his face. He reminded me of those aged invalids you see in the poorhouse. Peter was romping around the room with Mushi, the cat, while Mother Margaret and I were peeling boiled potatoes. When you get right down to it, none of us were doing our work properly because we were all so busy watching Mr. Van Daan. Dussel has opened his dental practice just for fun. I'll describe the session with his very first patient. Mother was ironing, and Mrs. Vandy, the first victim, sat down on a chair in the middle of the room. Dussel, unpacking his case with an air of importance, asked for some eau de cologne, which could be used as a disinfectant, and Vaseline, which could be used to do for waxing. He looked in Mrs. Vandy's mouth and found two teeth that made her wince with pain and utter incoherent cries every time he touched them. After a lengthy examination, lengthy as far as Mrs. Vandy was concerned, since it actually took no longer than 2 minutes, Distel began to scrape out a cavity, but Mrs. Vandy had no intention of letting him. She flailed her arms and legs until Dussel family let go of his probe and it remained stuck in Mrs. Vandy's tooth. That really did it. Mrs. Vandy lashed out wildly in all directions, cried, "As much as you can with an instrument like that in your mouth." Tried to remove it, but only managed to push it in even further. Mr. Dussel calmly observed the scene, his hand on his hip, while the rest of the audience roared with laughter. Of course, that was very mean of us. If it'd be me, I'm sure I would have yelled even louder. After a great deal of squirming, kicking, screaming, and shouting, Mrs. Vandy finally managed to yank the things out and Mr. Dussel went on with his work as if nothing had happened. He was so quick that Mrs. Vandy didn't have time to pull any more shenanigans. But then he had more help than he's ever had before. No fewer than two assistants. Mr. Vandy and I performed our job well. The whole scene resembled one of those engraving from the Middle Ages entitled "A Quack at Work." In the meantime, however, the patient was getting restless since she had to keep an eye on her soup and her food. One thing is uncertain. It'll be a while before Mrs. Vandy makes another dental appointment. Yours, Anne. Sunday, December 13, 1942. Dearest Kitty, I'm sitting here, nice and cozy in the front office, peering out through a chink in the heavy curtains. It's dark, but there is just enough light to ride by. It's really strange watching people walk past. They all seem to be in such a hurry that they nearly trip over their own feet. Those on bicycles whiz by so fast I can't even tell who's on the bike. People. The people in this neighborhood aren't particularly attractive to look at. The children, especially, are so dirty you wouldn't want to touch them with the barge pole. Real slum kid with runny noses. I can hardly understand a word they say. Yesterday afternoon, when Margaret and I were taking a bath, I said, "What if we took a fishing rod and reeled it each of those kids one by one as they walked by, stuck them into the tub, washed them, and mended their clothes, and then tomorrow they'd just be as dirty as tattered as they were before Margaret applied. But I'm babbling. There are also other things to look at: cars, boats, and the rain. I can hear the tram and the children, and I'm enjoying myself. Our thoughts are subject to as little changes as we are. They're like a merry-go-round turning from juice to food, from food to politics. By the way, speaking of juice, I saw two yesterday when I was peeking through the curtains. I felt as though I was gazing at one of the seven wonders of the world. It gave me such a funny feeling, as if I'd denounced them to the authorities and was now spying on their misfortune. Opposite us is a houseboat. The captain lives there with his wife and children. He has a small yapping dog. We know the little dog only by its bark and by its tail, which we can see whenever it runs around the deck. Oh, what a shame! It's just started raining, and most of the people and hidden under their umbrellas. All I can see are raincoats and now and again the back of a stocking capped head. Actually, I don't even need to look. By now, I can recognize the woman at a glance, gone too fat from eating potatoes, dressed in a red or green coat and worn out shoes, a shopping bag dangling from their arms, with faces that are neither grim or good humored depending on the mood of their husbands. Yours, M.